Hi, my name is Asya Sherwani and I work extensively with teachers, school leaders and school management to look at aspects like school culture, teacher selection, teacher effectiveness and teacher well-being. I am especially interested in the student-teacher relations and how to build positive partnerships between the two, and in teacher education in the context of educational reform and transformation. I get to interact with a lot of young people on a day-to-day basis, and looking at my grey hair, they often ask me for career advice. Every generation tends to view the youth as unconventional, idealistic, unrealistic, and as people who want to break norms and rules. Perhaps because when we are young, we have the desire to change the world, and we are seen as activists to some extent. Just as youth fades into adulthood, it is expected that these qualities will as well. And when we become adults, we will turn into conformists and accept status quo. My goal today is to help you realize that you do not need to sacrifice or suppress your activism when you transition from the classroom to the workspace. The teaching profession could be an excellent avenue through which you could explore and challenge your idealism and leverage that to motivate yourself as well as others around you. Teaching is a profession in which you can use your creative and intellectual freedom on a day-to-day basis. Before we jump into the link between teaching and activism, I think it is important that we understand some elements of the education landscape in India. As you can see on the slide, we have over 77 lakh primary school teachers in India and over 19 lakh secondary school teachers in India. We have a shortfall of 12 lakh teachers, and on top of that, the very credible reports that we have referred to suggest that teacher absenteeism is a big concern. 1 out of 4 teachers is absent on any given day. So we have less teachers, and 25% of the existing teachers are not in the classroom on any given day. In addition, according to one study, 55% of the teachers in private schools are untrained. I could not find data on what percentage of government school teachers are untrained, but I would presume that it would be quite a bit. Even those teachers who are trained may not have received training which is relevant, which is rigorous, and which equips them with the skills, competencies, and the confidence that teaching requires. Although about 96% of children in India are enrolled in schools, only 42% of these move on from primary to secondary school. And 10% of this 42% finally go to college. So, as you can see, the student dropout rate is very high. We have an education crisis of huge magnitude in India. We need to do a lot of work to reduce the student dropout rate and increase the number of teachers. Improving the quality of education is obviously a very complex topic. However, we can try to explore the role motivated, innovative, and progressive teachers can play. Let's do some visualizing. What does an ideal classroom look like? I've asked hundreds of students from diverse backgrounds this question, and these are some of the responses I get. Students want a safe space where they can be courageous and bold, where they can ask questions, where they can explore concepts, where they are valued and respected, where they don't feel threatened or demeaned. A space where they can question stereotypical notions and where they are not fearful. This brings me to the question, what is the purpose of education? Is it only to create future workers, future doctors and engineers, or people who will compete in the corporate world or in the global marketplace? Is a skilled workforce the only thing we want? Or is the purpose of education also to help children make sense of the world around them and be compassionate, well-informed, thoughtful, well-adjusted, and courageous human beings? A powerful education philosophy is the teachers as learners and learners as teachers philosophy. In even the best of schools in India, we look at students as passive recipients or passive consumers of information which they memorize and reproduce. Our view of teaching is very unidirectional. What if we changed our perception? What if we looked at it as an interplay? What if we did not look at a child as a passive consumer of information, but as a creative being capable of constructing knowledge out of his or her lived experience? Would that not make the exchange between the teacher and learner more meaningful for both? If we view the child as a being who has the capacity to contribute, to teach, to participate, and to make their own decisions, would that not change the way we interact with them? I think it would, and I think it would also make the classroom look more like the ideal classroom we visualized earlier. This approach would also make us look at ways of connecting the subject we are teaching with life outside the classroom. And this would also help us all, learners as well as teachers, to look at interrelationships between subjects and topics. The study of economics would be about how can we make better use of limited resources? What is money? Why do some people have so much and others none at all? Why do we have such an unequal distribution of wealth? Are there other factors involved? The social studies class can take this understanding further to delve into aspects like caste, discrimination, feudalism, religion, democratic principles, and their role in society. In physics, we could learn about the light bulb and how it works. And in an environmental science class, we can talk about how to make bulbs more energy efficient. Once again, in an economics class, we can talk about how to market this bulb and make it available to those who are at the base of the economic pyramid. And in social studies, we can have a dialogue around how having a light bulb can change the life of a person or a child who has lived so far without electricity or without a light bulb. We need to help students bring everything they learn together so that they can actually do something meaningful with all the knowledge that they gain. We need to allow ourselves and our students to unlearn and to challenge assumptions and encourage them to think of creative solutions to the problems and inequalities that are there in the world. And this is where a teacher can become an activist. And by the way, this is not a new concept. Savitribai Phule, the mother of modern education, was an activist. Way back in 1848, she established the first school for girls in Pune at a time when education was believed to be the preserve of the Brahmins, and children from other castes and communities were denied the right to education. Savitribai and her husband broke the rules, and 8 girls belonging to different castes enrolled as students on the very first day. She obviously had to contend with a lot of opposition, but she did not let that come in her way. Savitribai opened another school for adults the same year, and by 1851, she was running 3 schools with about 150 girl students. Imagine a teacher with these credentials teaching you about courage and open-mindedness. Imagine how transforming her classes must have been. Allowing dissent and challenging status quo are important elements of the learning process. That every hypothesis is refutable is a fundamental presumption of the scientific methodology. A classroom can be turned into a space where we activate and nurture the scientific temper. We need to teach students to have the courage and conviction to change the world, and this has to begin in the classroom. To develop scientific temper is one of the fundamental duties of Indian citizens according to the Constitution of India. Classrooms should be spaces for dialogue and debate through which knowledge is constructed through learning, unlearning, and relearning. The purpose of education also is to encourage participation in economic processes and social change. And we have to begin by asking questions in the classroom. What does inclusion mean? Does a student with disability or a speech problem have the same rights as other students? What kind of inequalities are the students experiencing in their own life? What kind of conditioning are they experiencing? How is it impacting their thinking? How is it impacting the teachers' thinking? Are the teachers and learners experiencing the same conditioning? How is this conditioning impacting their self-identity? What kind of imbalances is this creating? What are the standards of beauty that we are imbibing from popular culture and the influences around us? The classroom can become a space where we explore self-identity, gender, and what role societal signifiers of supremacy play in the way we think about ourselves and others. Can we really teach compassion, open-mindedness, resilience, curiosity, and thoughtfulness if we are unable to understand or practice them ourselves? Probably not. And that is why I feel that young people like you, who have been exposed to so much of this revolutionary thinking and have so many gadgets and tools like the social media at your disposal, will make excellent teachers. You can make the learners as teachers and teachers as learners philosophy come to life. So bring your energy, your courage of conviction, your idealism into the classroom. Transform yourself, your students, and the way we look at education. Use your passion for social transformation that our country, our continent, and the world badly needs. Be courageous and teach courage. I'd like to conclude with a quote from one of my favorite thinker and activist, Bell Hooks. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. Thank you so much for watching this webinar, and bye until we meet again.